All right, let's talk. Let's talk about this here. Game of Thrones. I'm gonna take my time with this, so you're in it. All right, so I'm gonna talk about season 8 and just really mostly just season 8. I got some notes here. I'll try to keep it on track. I'll try to keep it brief. But I am gonna take my time. But let's get into it. Overall thoughts. Season 8. It wasn't as good as any of the other seasons. And before I really get into this, I will say that this show is like historical. It's a historical show. It's huge. It's a big deal. Biggest show, or at least one of the biggest shows, besides maybe Breaking Bad, that I remember being able to watch or watching. Production-wise, direction-wise, early seasons, character development, all that stuff, great, through the roof. That's why I watch it. This season was a letdown. It felt like average television with really great production. So yeah, let's get into that. It was rushed. It felt rushed. 6 episodes for this one season. Not enough. I feel like it should have had 10, at least 10. If it could have had 10, I think it would have helped out immensely. It was, however, really well done. Like, besides maybe episode 3, where everything was kind of dark and shaky, all the episodes looked great. The sets looked great. The costumes looked great. I believe that the actors showed up and they did their job, which is to act. They were just given material that disagreed with me personally. But the worst part is that, like, one of the things that was missing from it being so expedited to the finish line is all the character stuff. All of the people growing slowly over time and coming to logical conclusions as to why they would do whatever they're doing on screen. And we'll get back around to that. I'll go short through the episodes. Like, episode 1 and 2, boring schlogs for me. In the sense that not only were they, it's not that I only watch it for the stab, kick, whatever. They don't do a lot of kicking, but they do a lot of stabbing. But, it's not just that. I felt like the character stuff and the pacing in episode 1 and 2 wasn't really going to the finish line. They only had 6 seasons. They spent maybe 2 hours just in Winterfell alone, just kind of talking. And I was like, come on, slow it up, or speed it up, I guess. And then in episode 3, it slowed even more, because they spent about an hour and a half on one battle. That's like a movie. It was like a feature-length television show on one war, one battle, in which not a lot of story happened, which is why I don't like that episode very much. Night King died, which is a huge plot point, yeah. But he could have died, and you could have spent 15 minutes on the cleanup. But, they did that in episode 4, which I liked. However, it was rushed. It took the funeral scenes. Then it was a party scene and all of that stuff. Then it was negotiations over whether or not to move south to King's Landing. Then, in the same episode, and this used to take a season, which is why it's kind of a big deal for, people who've seen the show, they just get to King's Landing. Then it's negotiations over whether or not to fight. Then, in between that, there was a dead dragon. Then there was a beheading, and all that stuff happened in, 75 minutes or something. And it was crazy. It was fun to watch for me because things were finally moving forward, and I felt like they were moving forward. But there was a lot of stuff going down in that episode, and I think they should have just shifted their use of time around. Episode 5. It's the bells with the burning of the innocent people and civilians. And episode 5 looks really cool, though. There were like 20 people on fire, like in real life. I went and watched like behind the scenes stuff. They built a set. They built like a city, or at least, downtown of a city. And, they destroyed it. It was really well shot. The dragon looks cool. I just don't like the story in that. Whatever little bit of character piece or story there is, because it's another big battle episode, I disliked, and we'll get back to that. And then in episode 6, my gosh, in a season that didn't feel like it was moving to the finish line, this didn't feel like it had any sense of urgency whatsoever. In the last episode of this series, oh my god. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. It's just, oh wow. Danny died in that episode, and it was just like any other scene in the series. Oh man. It just, yeah, it really was. It's just, yeah, it's disappointing to see. But I'm gonna get to the characters now, because that's everybody's favorite part, right? Or at least that's my favorite part. And I won't get to all of them. I've only gotten like the big ones. I'm gonna start with Brandon Stark. Brandon Stark is a booty character. He is awful. I do not like him. He is boring. He has always been boring. I do not feel like he has served a single purpose in this show ever, besides just being there because he was in the books. The thing he did most was make me watch episode 2 of season 1, because he was pushed out the tower, and I was like, oh shoot, they're killing kids like right off the bat. I want to see where this show goes. And that is all Brandon Stark has ever done for me in his entire show. He's a booty character. I do not like him. The Night King, also booty. Which I always thought he was cool, but the thing about it is, the way he died, the episode that he died, he didn't do anything. So the whole entire time, he raised his arms, right? He brought some, he threw a javelin that one time, and I was like, oh shoot. And then in episode 3, he didn't draw a knife, he didn't draw a sword, he didn't clash with anybody, he didn't do anything, he just walked around like, what's up, Winterfell? And I was just, why? Why even have him there? He didn't matter at all. Oh gosh. Night King, terrible. However, Arya, who killed the Night King, was basically like a medieval super spy, and that's awesome. And I don't care what you say. She learned this stuff, and I was really scared that it wasn't at all going to pay off. It paid off in episode 3, I would say, at least for me. So Arya turned out to be pretty cool. She's now one of my favorite characters. I'll go through the rest of the Starks. Sansa Stark, also one of my new favorite characters. I think her growth and development from like this naive child who didn't know exactly what she wanted. She wanted a crown, but she didn't know what that meant. She didn't know how to get it either. She just wanted it, and she hated where she was, which is, the north. And then, she moved. She got what she wanted like twice, and it just took everything from her. She figured out what she wanted again. She wised up, learned lessons, turned tables, played tactics, and like grew, and now she's queen again in a place where she has grown to love, in a place that's always kind of accepted her, which is her home in the north, which I think is a really cool kind of arc to have as a character. And I've heard some people don't like her, and I disagree, and I think everyone should like her, but oh well. Jon Snow Stark, Aegon Targaryen, whomever, was always kind of a bland main character for me personally. I don't know what he's like in the books. I haven't read the books. However, on the show, he was just kind of mopey. He always did what was good, which is why I liked him, and he was kind of like Ned Stark in the sense that like he wanted good things to happen, and he was willing to work for them when he needed to. But he's kind of like a depressed Captain America, like as a whole. Like he wants what's good, and he's like, but and it's just the whole thing. So I always just kind of like, yeah, all right, we're supposed to like Jon. I like Jon. He's dope. I feel like him being related, him being a Targaryen was just kind of a plot point that they just used for this one season. I don't really see how it goes back and affects anything that had already happened. So it just kind of seemed like, meh. This will create some tension. And I know that's the way that I think George R.R. intended it, but I don't know what he really intended to happen because I haven't read the books and he hasn't finished the books. So, oh well. But Jon, kind of bland. I don't dislike him though. I do like him. I like him, but he's bland. Tyrion Lannister, one of my favorites, got super dumb. towards the end. Like, just dumb. Like, let's keep, everyone in just a place full of dead people when the dead people are attacking. Dumb. Ruled by emotion. Dumb. Apparently he was in love with Daenerys, which I never saw, and maybe that's just me, but I never saw that, and he said it, and he threw it out there, and he was like, I was in love, I believed in her, and I was like, really? You just kind of look stupid. But maybe that's what love does, who knows? That was really dark. Oh well, but that brings us to good old Dany, one of my favorite characters. And they just, that's the pinnacle of when you hear Rushed about this. That's probably who a lot of us are talking about. She was always kind of crazy. She was always really determined. And then they just kind of took that and, like, once again, just super duper expedited. Boom, boom, boom. You gotta be this now because we have to end in the next 2 episodes. Episode 5, she went from, at the end of season 7, let's start there. At the end of season 7, she was, if you get in my way, I'll destroy you. And she was always kind of that way throughout the previous seasons. And it kind of kept bubbling up. She, like, executed people, strung their body up in the street. And I was like, that's a lot. By season 7, she was like, if you don't serve me, if you don't bend your knee, I'm gonna burn you alive. And I was like, that's too much. And then it looked like at the beginning of season 8 that she had kind of pulled that back, at least in my opinion. She wasn't burning people alive. She didn't go to Winterfell and burn everybody who didn't, gave her a snide remark or something, which was okay with me. I was like, okay, cool, maybe she's gonna grow. And then they did go back around to the Mad Queen. The problem with that is because she seemed like she had pulled back 3, or I guess 4 episodes later, she's worse than where she was at the beginning or even at the end of season 7 or the beginning of season 8. And we didn't see why on screen. And I understand why, if I think about it, I think, okay, this happened, that happened, this happened. And this is a conclusion. But I didn't see her go from point A to point B. I just understand how she could have gone from point A to point B, which is poor execution. It's poor writing, poor directing, whatever you want to call it. Just rushed storytelling. She had to be bad because the show had to end. And I feel like that's why they made her bad in that moment, which is not a good decision to make. So, disappointing to see, Which brings us, I guess, to Cersei and Jaime, who are the last 2 characters that I'll talk about. Cersei was kind of always crazy in a really nuanced way. In this season, she drank a lot of wine and stared at a lot of windows. And, okay. And then she died. Okay. Nothing really happened with her at all. And her brother, who I thought was going to have a really cool arc, went like from one point, pushing Bran out the window all the way around to I thought he was going to go and try to kill his sister. Nope. He just went because he's like, you know what? I love my sister and no one can tell me nothing. And he just went for her and that was it. He went all the way back to square one in like one smooth stroke of like an episode. And it was bad. That's bad. And then they find each other and they get, what should have been crushed, but I guess that would be too hard to see. They were just buried by falling bricks, because that makes sense. But yeah, oh well. That's it. Disappointing.